Alright class, so today in lab we're going to be doing a pretty straightforward experiment where we mix calcium chloride and sodium phosphate together. So we can see that chemical reaction here, and once we mix those two chemicals together in a water solution, we are going to end up forming a precipitate. That precipitate will be calcium phosphate, and that'll be a solid that we'll see sort of coming out of our solution, and we'll be able to isolate that in the experiment as well. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is just get a clean and dry 400 milliliter beaker, and we're going to find the mass of that on the balance. Make sure you record this on your data sheet. Then you're going to add about 1 gram, and it really doesn't have to be exact, so here it's about 2 scoopfuls for me, 1 gram of your mixture into your beaker, and again get the mass. The difference between those two masses, that'll tell you exactly how much of that solid you dispensed. If you spill any of your solid, we've got this brush that you can use to clean up after yourself. The next thing you'll need to do is get 200 milliliters, about 200 milliliters of deionized water. So I'm using a graduated cylinder here. So just fill that up twice and dump that into your 400 milliliter beaker. So now we're going to start stirring and heating our reaction. And so here you can see a temperature probe. This temperature probe you can also use to stir. You don't need to use a stirring rod actually. So we can see stirring it up here. I've set my hot plate at 250. And I can go ahead and just start the heating process. After about 10 minutes of heating, I got up to about 80 degrees here. At this point in time, we want to make sure we're still stirring, and we can also lower the temperature on the hot plate. So I think probably once it hits 80 degrees, it's a good idea to turn your hot plate down to maybe like 120 and continue heating for about 10 minutes. We want to hold the temperature between 80 and 90 degrees. So this is a piece of filter paper. There's a number of ways to fold this for filtration. Here I'm showing you just fold it in half again, you can make this little pocket that can go into your funnel, and then we'll just be passing our solutions through this filtration system in order to filter out the solid and let all of the filtrate or the liquid go through. This beaker is going to be really hot, so make sure that you use tongs to carry it and move it around and pour. Once it cools down, you can go ahead and use your hands, but initially it's going to be quite hot still from the heating process. So at this point in time, your goal is just to filter your solution. The longer you sort of let this settle, the quicker this is going to go. I didn't let it settle very much, and it ended up taking quite a long time for all of the water to drip through. While you're working on filtering, you can also heat up a little bit more deionized water. That's just to rinse and wash and make sure you get all of that solid out of your beaker. So at this point in time, I've transferred all of the contents of my reaction beaker through the filter flask, and I'm going to go ahead and rinse that just with about 5 milliliters of that hot deionized water, and then use that to wash my filtrate just one more time. So once I've collected at least 100 milliliters of my filtrate, I can do the next part of the experiment. So I'm going to take 50 milliliters of the filtrate. That's the solution that has gone through the filter paper, so there should be no solid in it. And I'm going to transfer that into 2 separate beakers, beakers 1 and beakers 2. And this is how I'm going to test to find out what the limiting reactant is in my chemical reaction. So into beaker 1, I'm going to put in about 5 drops of this calcium chloride solution. And then into beaker 2, I'm going to put in 5 drops of the sodium phosphate solution. And I'm going to observe what happens, and then that should be able to tell me which reagent is left over. So think about sort of what we're doing here, what this experiment is going to tell us. Basically, if I have one of the reagents left over, that reagent will be able to react with one of the, with the other reagent that we're adding in, and we should be able to figure out from this, experiment which one the limiting reagent in our experiment was. Now you can see that I've got my solid on my filter paper. I'm going to rinse it just one more time with a little bit of that hot water still. And now that all the water has drained out, I'm just going to put this wet filter paper onto a watch glass. And then this watch glass, this is going to go into the oven, and that's it.